This is a front-end web application I built. It's a simple e-commerce store, and I have used React.js on the front end and Ruby on Rails in the back end. Just to take you through the user experience, you can start at the sign up page where you're directed to create a username and password. You're then directed to the login page. And on the back end, there is bcrypt and jot tokens that I'm using to employ my auth middleware. Let's see if I entered that incorrectly. There we go. Once you're logged in, you have a little logout button that shows up here in your nav bar. And you can go ahead and add an item to your cart. You click on the link, you're taken to a show page with a description of the product and a slightly larger image. You click the add to cart item, and you'll notice now a badge appears over your cart. You go to your cart and you'll see the item that you've selected with a simple little cart menu over here that displays the total or the subtotal and your total. If you don't want this item, simply click the remove button and your cart is deleted. Or if you wanted to add multiple items, you simply just need to select multiple items, go to your cart, and you'll see now that you have both items available to you with a subtotal and total that is that includes both prices. Once you hit checkout, you're taken to a little thank you page, and your order is saved in my database. So let's take a quick look at the code at how all of this works. And we'll start with the back end, which is built on Ruby, built with Ruby on Rails. I have 4 models here. I have cart items and items, which are 2 nearly identical models. The only difference is items is a representation of all of the products that I have in my inventory, and they have no relationship to the other models. Cart items is simply a single instance of any one of my items, and cart items is related to my orders with a one-to-many relationship. So one order can obviously have many cart items. I have one more one-to-many relationship, and that is between users, which is simply just a username and password, and orders. So one user can have many orders. With that in mind, let's take a look at the code on the front end. And we'll start with the app.js, and I want to point out some of my global variables because these are what I'm going to use to not only make the API calls, but determine which calls I'm going to make and in which order. A big challenge I had with this project is making sure that I maintain those one-to-many relationships properly. That way I wouldn't get an error thrown. Say if I tried to create a cart item without an order, then there'd be an error, or if I tried to create an order without a user, there would be an error as well. So in my global state, I have things like, is there an order? Is there a user? Is this user signed in? And does the order that I've already created have items in it? So from there, we'll go to the show page where when the user clicks the add to cart button, you are first taken to sort of a placeholder function, which goes ahead and checks that you are both logged in and that there is a token so that I can send that token to the backend. Again, I'm using jot tokens through my auth middleware, so I send this token as a header in all of my post requests to make sure that I am allowed to do what I want it to do. So if you are logged in, we're going to go ahead and create an order because that's the first step in our process. If you're not, you'll simply be redirected to the login page and you'll be asked to log in. Now, the second step we need to verify is if this is the first item in your order, and if it is, that's fine. We'll go ahead and just create an order, and then we'll go ahead and take from the response the, the order ID, and then pass that to our create order function, or create item function. Now, if you already have an order made, then we'll simply bypass all of this and go straight to the create order item. And in this function, we simply make a post request to the backend, and you now have a order and cart items associated with that specific order. Next, we'll take a look at deleting an item or deleting an order altogether, because similar to the creating an order, you have to make sure that before you can delete an order, you have deleted all of the items that are associated with that order. So the user will click this button. You're then taken again to something of a placeholder function, and it decides whether or not this is the last item in your cart, in which case we'll just go ahead and delete the order. Or if you have multiple items in your cart, we're simply just going to delete the item, leaving the order and whatever order items are left intact. And these functions that you saw on the show page and the cart page are how I maintain the two one-to-many relationships that I have set up in my backend. The last thing I wanted to show you is something called CSS components, which is something I decided to learn for this project. In order to employ this, all you need to do is install an npm package called styled components and use two things, the styled method and this theme provider. The theme provider simply wraps around all of the different components that I have in my project, and any selector that I wish to pass down to those components, I can do so as props. These would be variables that I'd want to use in multiple components, so I kind of just have different colors that I know I'm going to want to use in different instances, or max width, because I know a lot of my containers are going to use this same exact value. So in order to access any of those props, you first create a JavaScript page, which I have available for all of my pages and components. You import your styled method from styled components, you save the component that you want to create to a variable, use the styled method, and then after the styled method, you input the kind of HTML element you want this component to be. And after that, you simply write all of the CSS that you feel like using to style that particular component. And to get back to the theme property, if you want to use something that's passed down as props, you create a arrow function with props as a parameter, and then you can access anything that was passed down in that theme object that I created. In this case, there's a box shadow that I use around a lot of my divs, and I have it available in this theme variable. So that wraps up this presentation. Again, this was built with React.js on the front end, where I used CSS styled components, and on the back end with Ruby on Rails. Thank you.